Happy Land is the name of a neighborhood in Manila, Philippines, and its name carries a striking contrast to the life found within it. Happy Land literally means the land of happiness. Yet what it actually represents is a painful irony, a reality of life that is incredibly far from anything that could be called happiness. Happy Land is a bleak portrait framed within an extremely limited space. Its residents seem to live stacked on top of one another, trapped in an environment that appears to reject comfort and even basic health. Here, hardship is not simply a part of everyday life. It has become the air that people breathe in every cramped space they call home. Tondo, where Happy Land is located, is not only one of the largest districts in the Manila metropolitan area, it is also home to one of the largest and most impoverished informal settlements in Manila. Many of them live on the streets or inside tiny makeshift shelters that barely qualify as homes. Happy Land has an extremely high population density. Almost every corner is packed with makeshift structures built incredibly close together, with little to no open space and almost no proper ventilation. The narrow streets, often only wide enough for pedestrians or motorcycles, serve as the main access routes. And they are surrounded by garbage and leftover food that frequently piles up along the streets because of the lack of an effective waste management system. This already difficult environment makes the quality of life even worse. Unpleasant smells, pollution, and constant noise have become part of everyday life. The conditions are so bad that some of the walkways have essentially turned into piles of garbage. In some areas, the asphalt is almost impossible to see because it has been covered by old plastic bags, rotten waste, empty food packaging, and all kinds of other trash. This is the same ground people have to walk across every single day. For most families in Happy Land, there are no separate bedrooms or private spaces. Their homes are often tiny rooms averaging around 9 square meters. And inside these rooms, around 10 to 15 people may have to share the same roof, walls, and floor. The same room serves as a bedroom, kitchen, dining area, and sometimes even a workplace and social space. At night, a floor covered with thin sleeping mats becomes the only place where people can rest after spending the entire day simply trying to survive outside. In conditions this cramped, family members often have to share sleeping spaces. Sometimes 3 or even 4 people have to share a single small sleeping mat. Pillows, woven mats, and blankets are used by different family members in shifts. Meanwhile, children may sleep in their parents' arms or squeeze themselves into whatever tiny gaps are still available. Every inch of space matters here. There is almost no room for privacy or personal space. Even something as simple as changing sleeping positions has to be done carefully so that one person doesn't disturb everyone else. These cramped living conditions are made even worse by unstable construction. Many of the buildings are made from discarded materials such as wooden boards, sheets of metal, and plastic. The rooms are stuffy, crowded, and far from what most people would consider a safe or livable home. These tiny spaces generally don't have adequate ventilation. The windows are small, may not always be open, and sometimes face directly toward the walls of neighboring homes. With so many people living inside such a small space, fresh air has very little opportunity to enter. The situation is made even worse by the damp, stale air that fills the room. That air mixes with the smell of food being cooked on a small stove in the corner of the same room. At night, especially when Manila's hot and humid weather adds even more pressure, people may wake up covered in sweat, feeling trapped and struggling to breathe inside their own homes. For children and elderly residents, the situation can be especially difficult. Children have very little space to study or play. They are essentially trapped inside cramped rooms without enough freedom to move around. But limited space isn't the only problem in Happy Land. The lack of space continues outside the home as well. The narrow streets are sometimes barely wide enough for one person to pass through. They are surrounded by tightly packed homes, making even basic access to public toilets and clean water a daily struggle. Public toilets may be located around 50 meters away. That means residents have to share these facilities with many other families. Long lines can become a normal part of everyday life, with people waiting their turn just to take care of basic human needs. Clean water, meanwhile, is extremely difficult to access. Many residents have to rely on bottled drinking water or install connections to clean water pipes. But for bathing and washing, they often depend on heavily polluted rivers or drainage canals. These waterways flow slowly between household and industrial waste. The water can appear almost blue-black because industrial and household waste continuously flows into it. Contact with this water can contribute to skin problems, infections, and other health issues related to water pollution. In Happy Land, the concept of comfort is almost non-existent. For many residents, simply surviving has become the priority. The cramped environment turns everyday life into a long and exhausting struggle. The strong smell of garbage and filthy drainage canals becomes part of daily life. It's a constant reminder that comfort and cleanliness are luxuries many residents simply cannot afford. There is very little that could be considered entertainment in Happy Land. Instead, people find comfort in being together inside their tiny homes and in their dreams. And those dreams are often nothing more than hoping to eat a full meal, or hoping to sleep a little more comfortably the following night. Here, even children at a very young age are forced to learn how difficult life can be. They are often seen helping their parents collect garbage or search through piles of leftover food from restaurants. That food is then processed and turned into everyday meals known as Pagpag. The term Pagpag in Tagalog means to shake off or to clean. But in impoverished communities like Happy Land, Pagpag refers to the practice of collecting leftover food from restaurants, washing it, cooking it again, and then eating it. This food commonly consists of leftover fried chicken, rice, and other fast food items that have been thrown away because they weren't sold or had already been taken from customers' plates. Pagpag emerged as a result of the extreme poverty experienced by some communities in the Philippines, including people living in Happy Land. The high cost of living in the city and the lack of stable employment force many families to search for whatever food they can afford. Some are even forced to search through garbage. For people with extremely low incomes, Pagpag becomes a practical solution for survival, even though it carries significant health risks. Scavengers typically search for pieces of meat or other food that still appear edible, even though they may already be mixed with other waste. Once collected, the food is cleaned and cooked again at home or in small shops that specialize in selling Pagpag. Pagpag is usually fried again or boiled in an attempt to reduce bacteria and remove dirt that may still be attached to the food. This isn't only done for personal consumption. Pagpag is also sold at extremely low prices in small food stalls throughout impoverished communities. This gives people living in extreme poverty a chance to obtain food, even though its quality and hygiene are far below normal health standards. Many parents have become desperate and unable to consistently put food on the table for their children. That desperation has forced some parents into heartbreaking decisions. UNICEF has described the Philippines as a global hotspot for online child sexual exploitation. Tragically, some parents have even become involved in these schemes, connecting their own children with predators online in exchange for money. For some families, this becomes a last resort simply to put food on the table. In a country where around 95 children reportedly die every day from malnutrition, more than 35,000 children under the age of 5 die from malnutrition every year across the Philippines. More than 100,000 young people and adults also die from preventable diseases. This means Deaths caused by disease and malnutrition are far greater than what is often described as extrajudicial killings of people involved in the illegal drug trade. Happy Land began becoming known as a slum community several decades ago. At the time, many migrants from the provinces moved into Manila looking for work around the port and surrounding industrial areas. Over time, the area became increasingly crowded with communities struggling to meet their basic needs. Most residents built their homes from discarded materials such as wood and sheets of metal. Poor economic conditions and inadequate infrastructure caused the area to develop into a settlement with extremely limited facilities. Happy Land became a visible representation of Manila's population crisis. The available space was extremely limited and often unsuitable for human habitation. There is no official data establishing the exact size of Happy Land because it is an informal settlement that developed without formal authorization and continued expanding over time. Interestingly, the name Happy Land itself may have a very different origin. The word happy is believed to have evolved from a local term associated with the area's garbage dump. In everyday local speech, the original term referred to a place filled with foul-smelling and rotten garbage. And that description was unfortunately very fitting for the actual conditions. Over time, however, the original word reportedly evolved into happy. Happy. One possible explanation is that the change came from broken English conversations between local residents and English-speaking visitors who asked what the area was called. Eventually, the new name was accepted by the community, a name that softened the unpleasant reality of the original term, turning it into an expression of happiness.